Webinar is now streaming live on Facebook. Mine's
Okay,
up.
well,
Mine's
welcome everybody. This is Beth Ienni, licensed therapist and food addiction recovery coach. And I am joined by Leann. So welcome, Leann.
Thank you.
And just in case you're just joining me now live, this is Beth Ienni, licensed therapist and food addiction recovery coach. And I'm here with Leann, who just is at the end of my 8-week in-home rehab. And she was gracious enough to talk about her experience. So I know the number one thing on people's minds is, can anything work for me? So first, I feel like people really want to know, uh, Leann, were you like them? Or are you some kind of special unicorn? Like, were you like them when you first started with me 8 weeks ago? So would you give us a sense of what it was like for you before we met?
So before we met, in my journals, I had written down things like, oh, I ate again another 6 donuts and I wish I hadn't. Or I had written that I wish that I could control my desire for sugar, but every night I want that chocolate. I was very happy when I was eating and overeating, but I was very miserable after I would eat that thing. And I didn't seem any ability to stop.
Well, exactly. And like we were just talking about before we decided to start recording and going live, is that that's pretty much what every addict feels like, is that, they feel good when they get that high or that result or that sedation, whatever it is. And then they feel horrible about the fact that, they may have some kind of hangover, they'll have side effects, they'll have, whatever. For a food addict, of course, there's a million side effects, right?
Mine
Um,
was the favorite food coma. I would sleep in my recliner chair after I'd eaten.
so that was you. So you used it as a way just to kind of go to sleep and just
I didn't
check out.
realize I was leaning on it. I just thought that was typical. As I got older, I thought it was just, oh, I'm just getting old, I'm slowing down. But now I don't fall asleep in my recliner at all. So there's a huge difference.
Well, yeah, I want to get to that. So yeah, usually people don't realize till after they get better just how bad it was. So with that hindsight being 2020, so can you kind of list your symptoms? Like, so you were more sleepy, did you have
So
other problems that you can think
for
of?
for me, I'm a diabetic, but I don't take insulin or anything, and I was trying to control it with my food. Well, I was trying, and so I would log my food and pay attention to what I was eating. And what I found is that every night I would just gravitate towards the sugars, and it could be anything from just one cookie to a box of cookies. And one of the turning points was when my husband said, it's not normal to sit down and eat a whole bag of Oreos. Well, for me, that was normal. And then as I saw myself slowly begin to just gravitate towards eat, sleep, promise myself I'd be better tomorrow, get back up, try it again, and never seeing the cycle broken. And that was my turning point.
Well, and I think a lot of husbands, or family members hate to confront us, but the fact is that we do need sometimes that reality check, because here
Yes.
you are, someone who has a fairly serious health condition, which can lead to other things. I'm sure I don't need to tell you.
Yeah.
And if you're going to use food as your main medicine or your only medicine, and if you can't control that, that's life threatening.
Life threatening.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
so I think it's just interesting how addicts can be in denial about, wow, um, I'm really hurting myself.
And we promise ourselves we'll change it tomorrow. We always say we'll do better tomorrow, and tomorrow comes and we don't, and then we do it again. And so for me, it was definitely a deadly cycle. For me, my family was very supportive of this recovery, but they also were kind of frustrated that I just was always complaining but never doing anything. And that's probably for me the best part of this, is that I'm no longer in the guilt cycle.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always find that interesting that, like, people may be struggling with life or death illnesses, but what they're really most upset about is the mental anguish of it, to be that out
Yeah.
of control, and to have the guilt and the shame and the frustration. And yeah, it's interesting that the mental is more painful to people.
And we tend to hang out with, like, I hung out with people that had the same issues. So you didn't feel the conviction because you were around everybody that was doing the same thing. So you didn't think you were as bad as off as you were.
Yeah, yeah. Even if the doctors are like, this doesn't look good, but you're thinking, well, I only see you once a year, so bye-bye.
Exactly. That's
Right. And we
exactly
can
it.
pretend that, like la la la, we can just pretend that it's not that those labs don't mean anything.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and not to beat a dead horse, but I just want to insert this because this is just new for me. I've never been much into stats, but I finally realized that food addiction is the number one killer of all Americans and probably Canadians and people in Western civilization, because the number one killer is heart disease, and all the risk factors for heart disease are caused by food addiction. The obesity, the unhealthy diet, the
Yep.
inactivity, the all of it. Um, and so, and then of course with COVID-19, some people, it's not a huge issue in their area, but for those who are worried about it, all the risk factors for dying of COVID-19 are related to food addiction, which are obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. So it just it kind of boggles the mind that we're all sort of okay. We're all sort of mesmerized and hypnotized into thinking that we're okay. But as a whole culture, um, we're all kind of asleep at the wheel here and we're dropping like flies because of it. So I always just like to use these videos as opportunities to wake people up. But I
Yeah.
definitely want to focus on you more than anything else.
Yeah.
But so I'm just wondering, now other people have said that they don't realize till after they get better that they had, brain fog or aches and pains or other things going on. Did you have other stuff going on, digestive issues, other stuff?
For me, some of the things that we're getting ready to be a huge problem is like with the diabetes, if your numbers are high, you have to get them lower. And I was amazed for me how just 2 weeks into the program, my numbers went down to normal just by eliminating the sugars. So for me, that was a huge wake up call of wow. And then that just kind of goes into the eyes. I was had a little bit of blurriness, and that's cleared up. I had aches and pains in my feet. That's gotten a whole lot better. And again, remember, I'm not doing any major exercise during this time. I'm not doing anything different except eating. And I'm feeling 100% better, sleeping better, everything.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, maybe it's easier to talk about, what's gotten better, because
Yeah.
it's
Well,
yeah.
yeah, because I didn't notice it. Those things you just get used to. You think you're getting older, and you think you're just in pain because you're getting older, and you think that, like my tongue, that is for me huge. I always kind of had like when you scald your tongue with hot tea or something, my tongue felt like that all the time. Now, without the sugar, my tongue tastes food more clearly and my tongue does not hurt. Now, if I accidentally eat something that shouldn't, instantly, it's a game changer for me.
Well, that's really interesting. Yeah. So I just want people to hear this. We have these laundry lists of symptoms that we've gotten used to, and we make up a story about how it's age because I think so many people, as they get older, happen to be developing a lot of health conditions, and then they decide it's age when really it's the health conditions that are very specific to them.
Yes.
Obviously, for food addicts, it's always the same. It's brain fog, it's pain, it's exhaustion, and then there are individual things, a lot of mystery illnesses or symptoms that the doctors throw up their hands and they don't know, a lot of autoimmune diseases, a lot of things that the doctors are still trying to figure out, like how did we get here? And magically these things tend to just evaporate. And just for the people who think that food addiction is all about sugar, I want to just clarify real quick. If getting rid of sugar were the end of everyone's problems, we would all have gone to heaven by now in terms of the promised land, in terms of we'd all be cured of food addiction. I
Yes.
wish it were that simple. So I just, for anyone listening, what we have found is that I have never met a food addict who could simply get better from just eliminating one thing like sugar, or
Yep.
just all processed foods, boom, all white food, boom. If it's simple, I'm going to say it's probably not true, because with
Yeah.
food addiction, you know how they say it's simple but not easy? I always say it's the opposite. It's complicated, but it can be easy once you have the right information and support. And it's not one size fits all. So if not every food addict is going to be eating the same way. So yeah, if you're listening to this and you're saying, oh, really, all I have to do is give up sugar, I'm like, I
No,
wish
that
it were
wasn't
that
it.
simple. I wish it were that simple, because otherwise, yeah, I think everyone would be doing a lot better than they are doing. Unfortunately, it is more complicated. But what's cool is if you are diabetic, once you're free from food addiction, you don't have to ever again eat things that you know you shouldn't be eating. For a diabetic, eating sugar is a bad idea. Like I'm talking about refined sugar. Obviously,
Yeah.
diabetics still eat naturally occurring sugars in fruit and in vegetables and things like that.
And it's
But
more
yeah,
about the
yeah,
self-control. You're
yeah.
learning how to have that self-control in a way that you can sustain. I, would say I was going to not do something, but I actually was surprised at how I could practice self-control and not eating certain things. And it wasn't hard. It was just very clear.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing about long-term recovery is that if it's hard, you just won't do it. And so it can't feel hard. It has to feel, I like to say we're neutral about food, meaning we're just not
Yeah.
obsessing about it. We're not overly focused on it. We know what we need to do. We still enjoy it, but we're just not feeling out of control. We're not feeling obsessed. We feel neutral. I think that's what every food addict really needs and craves and wants, is just to feel neutral about it
Yes.
and still be able to enjoy it and to
Oh
stop
yeah.
thinking about it and just
I
let it go.
enjoy I enjoy food so much more now that I understand what I need to do for my health.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. So yeah, I'm wondering, do you have a sense of other things that are good? I mean, you mentioned your tongue, which I think is really interesting, and then
My tongue and
less
then
falling asleep, less
let's and okay,
pain.
so here's my testimony for this weekend. So my husband and I celebrated our 32nd wedding anniversary and we went away and my husband says to me, I like the new Leann. And I said, well, I don't really feel any different. And he said, oh no, you're not as grumpy, you're not as easily agitated, and you are definitely happier. So that was exciting to me that he saw the difference, even though I didn't. I knew I felt better. I know that I feel more in control of my eating and just life in general. But that was exciting. And then we went out to dinner and had a great meal. And I was just able to enjoy, because sometimes we tend to think that we can't have. And I think that's the thing that I love about this program is that I found out I get to have a lot of things and it's not a deprivation of discipline. It's a total. I love the eat.
Yeah, on the
It's
wall.
just
It's on,
in
oh,
the
there it is.
wall. It's there. That is it. I get
Yeah.
to eat.
So I love that. See, I'm right now. I'm thinking, ooh, gee, that sounds like a lot of fun. Going out to dinner with my hubby and have him tell me how great I am. I like that idea.
It was a great weekend of just experiencing. Like before, I probably would have daydreamed about what I was going to get to eat because as an addict, you kind of daydream about that, and then your whole expectation is about the food. And it was way more about the people and the experience, and the food was, as you said, neutral. It just was part of the event.
Yeah, absolutely. And that sounds great. And I want people to hear that, we don't think of food as a mind altering substance. We don't, but we really need to start thinking of it as a mind altering substance because it can cause us to feel exhausted, foggy, to hate ourselves. And yeah, we are more irritable and grumpy because partially because we don't feel well and partially just because our
Yes.
brains are addled and this actually does affect other people. So I think food addicts really need to stop lying. Well, I think they're ignorant, they're not doing it on purpose, but I think they need to start realizing that they're just like any other addict in terms of they're not a lot of fun to live with.
Yeah, I had
People.
no idea. I thought I was really fun and easygoing and laid back. And I found out that, well, yeah, unless I ate something that made me sluggish, and then hubby wanted to go for a walk, and I was like, no, because of what I ate.
Yep, yep. And let's face it, if you're not feeling well, chances are you're just not up for, like you say, it just gets in, it stops you from doing things. So then you're having less fun. And those are you, everyone knows, because I've been married for 35 years and congratulations, by the way. But you want to have fun with that person. And
Yeah.
all those little moments are what makes life more fun, like going for a walk. And so if you're turning down things and you're not up to it, and anyway, so it's I think it's important for people to understand that while food addiction can really ruin a marriage, a lot of people have told me that before they got into recovery, that their marriage was actually pretty difficult for them, for a lot of reasons, because they just weren't able to participate in that marriage. They just were not able to do it. They didn't feel well. um, and then to realize, wow, I mean, you can actually have a much better marriage. I mean, it's important to keep
Yes.
that stuff in mind. And if you're single, obviously, if you hate yourself and you're avoiding people, how are you gonna meet people? So
Yep.
you got to think about food is really impactful. And so, well, I'm wondering if there's anything else. I love that story, Leanne. That's amazing. Thank you.
It
And
was. It was really good.
and I know that you work. Do you feel like you have a little more energy and get up and go for your clients and your work
Oh,
life?
definitely. I was actually considering retiring before I started this program. I thought, oh, I can't keep doing this. And so I did go through the program with the attitude of, okay, well, maybe this might work, and kind of skeptical. Well, now I'm 8 weeks into it and I am busier and able to do way more than I ever could have done before. And it's not in just the ability to physically lift, it's the ability to think. They talk about brain fog. You don't realize it until after it's gone, that there was such a cloud of, you just aren't able to think quickly, clearly. You're constantly sluggish, is the best way to. It's kind of like the computer when you push the button, it doesn't respond right away. That's the best way to describe it.
And we all know how annoying that is. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, and it's easy to see in an alcoholic or a quote pothead, that these chronic behaviors are addling their minds and making them more dull. It's easy to see it on them, but for some reason we just don't see it on us. And I really want to point out to people that, right now, a lot of people are really worried about the economy and their jobs. Think about it. If you don't have a working brain and body, how are you going to adapt to changing times? So this is
yeah,
really something that affects your bottom line. Again, I think people minimize that food addiction is actually making it harder to earn money. It's going to make it harder to pivot to something else. Um, and so, yeah, it really impacts your bottom line. So I'm assuming that if you can be smarter and work more, you can make more money. I mean, is that be fair to
exactly.
say?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yay. Yeah. I mean,
Yay. I
so I'm
I'm
thinking that's
excited.
fun.
I'm not planning to retire anytime soon because I see the difference. I can work and not be every thought. See, what happens for me is I was thinking constantly about what the next meal was, what the next for me, McDonald's was the crack house. I couldn't wait to get to McDonald's for the next hit. And so for me, I needed to break that addiction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I love it. So, I mean, I'm wondering, do you feel like there's something about your before or after story that we've neglected to talk about? I mean, it sounds like you've had a lot of huge shifts in so many areas.
I
Is there anything we're leaving
think the
out here?
biggest thing is, I think that if you're a person that is just tired of trying and feeling like you're never going to succeed, you're the person that thinks that, oh, yeah, I say I'm going to do this, but I know me, I'm not going to do this. The difference in this program is that it's not something that you have to change like light bulb. It's a gradual process of learning who you really are, who the person that you deep down want to be, and how to bring that to light, how to get to the core of who you really are and get those habits different. It just helped me become who I really wanted to be. And I like myself. I like who I'm becoming.
Wow. Well, I love that. That's huge. And like I said, even though I'm very impressed with the health statistics, and that's very impressive.
Yeah.
Obviously, we want you to be on the planet and share be with your family. But just the fact that you could like yourself and feel more authentic. I know, That's what really makes getting up in the morning, mean something to people, not just the health stats, which should be
Yeah.
more important, but for some reason they're not.
The battle, not having that mental battle. I remember like week 4 for me. I woke up realizing that I no longer, like, I had literally been with guilt and me were best friends, and I had woken up with such a normalcy of guilt, and it wasn't there because I didn't feel guilty about anything I was doing. I was just living. That is huge.
Wow. Yeah, that is huge. Well, yeah, you can't even measure the value of that. So thank you
Yeah.
for bringing that out. That's amazing. That's amazing. And so usually at the end, as I told you, I like to ask, so what's your advice to all those people who are saying, "Oh, I don't think this could work for me. I've already failed 100 things and nothing works for me, and I should just give up and accept that I'm just going to be like this for the rest of my life." So what would you say to those people?
I would say two things. One is, just like any program, if you do it all the way to the end, you will reap the benefits. So if you choose to go forward with this program, just commit all the way and don't second guess, because that was probably my biggest struggle. Is like in week 1, oh, am I really an addict? Week 2, oh, I don't think I can do this all the time. And I didn't always commit, and I wish that I had at the very beginning. So if you do this, commit. The other thing is that we get caught up in the word addiction. If you want to just say I like food all the time, that's the same thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So if you don't like the word addiction, just change it out for something else.
Yeah, it's the same
And
thing.
I,
Because
yeah. And yet the only reason why I like to use the word addiction is I do want people to equate that this problem is not um, any less dangerous or impactful than a heroin addiction or opioids, other opioids, or alcohol, or whatever you think of as being a horrible addiction. Because, again, I mean, not to
yeah,
beat a dead horse, but this addiction is actually killing more people and ruining more lives than heroin, than alcohol, than all those other horrible addictions that you're thinking of. And I want to wake you guys up. So if the word
yeah,
addiction makes you go, what? I'm thinking that's a good thing.
yeah,
I just want
that's
people to
true.
wake up and realize you're really hurting yourself, you're killing yourself, and you are hurting other people in your life, just like any other addict. And I
It's a
I
slow death.
yeah, and I'd rather you guys have that momentary twang of, ooh, am I an addict? Which doesn't feel good, to then getting to the other side of it, Leanne, where you're like, wow, I'm actually feeling free of that horrible guilt.
Yep.
So
Yes.
like I'm thinking, hey, sometimes the shortest distance between 2 points is just to go, face the truth really hard and starkly. But again, if the word addict doesn't work for you, as long as you wake up, I don't care what you call it, just
Yeah.
wake up, and stop killing yourself.
Yeah, and for me, my truth tellers are my kids and my husband, and they were very truthful because I did in week 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Said, "Are you sure?" And they all said yes. So just saying.
Well, you know what, Leanne, and I'm gonna say, um, it is a really good quality to have a little humility and be able to learn things.
Yeah,
And I think people who feel like they have nothing to learn and all that, it's going to be harder for them. It really
yeah,
is. So we hopefully people who are listening have not gotten so cynical about everything that they're not willing to learn and have a little hope. Interestingly enough, I really think that hope and humility go together. It's
yes,
really hard to have hope if you've already closed your mind and you think you know everything. Does that make sense?
yes, it does. And it's true. It is very true that if you don't kind of open up the heart and say, okay, let's take a look in there, if you don't do that and you're not willing, then you're going to struggle with it. Can't be done. It can be done, but it's going to be a little tougher. I am thrilled at just the outcome. For me, is it's become less about what I'm eating and more about the joy that I'm feeling of just peace about food in general. Is just not an issue. I love that my family sees the difference. And it's not we tend don't be confused that it's a weight loss thing. That wasn't the issue. The issue is I am just more clear about what I want and what I don't want to be like.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, usually what I say is, if you focus on recovery, you will eventually lose your weight. But if you focus on weight, you lose the chance at recovery because you're still lost in the obsession of food and weight, which kind of go together. So yeah, I always tell my clients, let's save the weight for a little bit later because we want you to get free of this drug,
Yeah,
which the side effect is weight gain, sadly. Let's get you free of the drug. The weight is going to take care of itself. Obviously, everyone has a different way of going about that, and we talk more about that. But yeah, first you got to get free. And so
yeah.
that's what you've done. Well, that's amazing. Is there anything else you want to add?
Um, no, I guess I just want people to know that this does work. It's worth the investment, and you will not regret it if you put your effort into it. You got to be all in.
Yep, exactly. And we do hope that people understand that, whatever it is people choose to invest in themselves, the fact is, it always comes back, whether it's in savings of all kinds of horrible medical expenses and
Yep.
all kinds of wasteful spendings that people do in their brain fog, or, if you're still working, you can make more money. So, you do have to invest
And
in
if
yourself
and
to
if you're
either.
struggling with that expense, here's the deal. My husband said the amount of money that we have saved already in 2 months from going out to eat all the time when we didn't need it. And of course, ate a lot more than I needed, like a dozen donuts and things like that. So for me, I have saved tremendous amount of time and money just by getting control of this one area.
Yep, I hear you. People don't even realize how much they're spending at the grocery store until they
They
look at the
just no.
before and after. It's crazy. All right. Well, thank you, Leann. Now, actually, I do want to keep talking to you, but I realize I'm going to have to stop this and
Okay.
then I'm going to have to restart another session with you. So I'll say goodbye for now, but then I'm going to reach
Okay.
out to you right away. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay. Bye bye.